So I woke up one morning to a message from my friend Mason stating, "Do you want 3,000?" And that's where this whole thing began. I quickly sold some scrap wire, bought the thing, and rented a U-Haul. And now it's here, and I'm going to tell you about it. Well, first off, you're probably wondering how it even got listed on eBay. Well, let me explain. So back between 2011 and 2013, the St. Lucie nuclear power plant was in the process of upgrading their Siren system and had one of the mass replacement waves, it's what we like to call them, of the entire system being upgraded. During this time, unit number 15 was taken down sometime between January 2013 and May 2013. Most outdated St. Lucie nuclear power plant sirens usually had their rotator scrapped after removal and the fiberglass head tossed. However, a Florida Power and Light worker decided they wanted the thing, so they took it home. But after some time, they decided they didn't want it, so they sold it to some guy who impulsively bought it drunk, who, after realizing his mistake, sold it to another guy to get his money back, who also bought it drunk. I bought it from that guy for $450 US, $483 US with tax and fees. After picking it up from the middle of nowhere at 9 p.m. at night, I brought it home and got some help bringing it into the backyard, sat the 310-pound nightmare upright against the shed, and left it there overnight. The first thing I did in the morning was get up, get dressed, and look at the thing. I took this photo that morning, as you see here. It still has the fabric screen St. Lucie nuclear power plant put in after removal to prevent dirt and debris and all that from getting in. I washed it off later that day with water before removing the bird screen to remove the fabric and clean the inside. I tried for a few days to get the drivers off, but they would not budge, so I just left them on there since there was no other option I had at the time that wouldn't have caused damage to the fiberglass horn. For a few days, I let it sit there without having a way to power the speaker drivers until one night I got an idea. I put a 1/4 inch cable into the headphone output of my guitar amp, wrapped 2 wires around it very jankily, and connected those to a singular speaker driver. And ta-da! The next morning is when I recorded Weezer riff video. Right after that, I started most of the disassembly. I started by taking off the drivers to make it lighter and test which were functional. Then I removed the rotator about a week later. It required bolt cutters as most of the bolts were so damaged they would not come off of the mounting plates. But I eventually did it, and that leads us to here. I have the rotator sitting in the room with most of the drivers I could get off. Not much else has happened with it. The rotator as of right now requires a complete rebuild before it would be functional. But I don't want to end the video right here. So here's all the info and more you could possibly want about the Siren. This Siren is a second-generation Whelen Engineering WS3000 manufactured in 1981 as one of 58 for the St. Lucie nuclear power plant. It uses 16 Atlas Sound SD370 100-watt compression drivers and consists of a fiberglass projector horn and a rotator that is used to direct the sound from the horn. The rotator motor is a 24-volt DC 42-to-1 gear ratio Von Wise motor which drives a worm gear which interfaces with the main gear connected to the main shaft. The motor is reversible and is required to be as the Siren hardwires the speakers, which the wiring travels through the shaft and into the horn. The rotator has a micro switch inside it that tells it when it has reached the home position from what direction. The controller would take that input and reverse the direction of the motor to prevent the wires from being damaged. There is also an optical sensor system to tell the controller exactly where the Siren is facing at any given moment out of 16 directions. This is used for the quadrant control system, which allows you to tell one or all Sirens in a system to face in one direction. The optical sensors use a disc that has been drilled with a binary counting pattern, along with a strobe signal, which the controller uses during silent testing to test if the rotator is functional. In 1981, Whelen Engineering had a few controller types. However, the one the St. Lucie nuclear power plant used was labeled the D816, which featured the ability to decode Whelen's 8-digit DTMF format via radio for activation and had a silent test feature, which would test the functionality of all 16 drivers, the rotator, and if the batteries are higher than 19 volts DC and if it has AC power. Then it would radio back to the base station, which would use a printer module to print it out. It had 9 functions. Here's an example of how they most likely would have been configured for St. Lucie. I personally think the D816 air horn is one of the most terrifying sounding, especially when it's not synthesized by me. Around 1984, I don't know, I barely have info on these, the D836 came out. It was virtually identical, but had a lot of changes in the decoder hardware. I would explain more, but only one of the manuals I have, the D816, is over 200 pages, and the other is like 60. In 1987, Whelen introduced a new leap, a almost completely microprocessor-controlled controller called the ESC864. The introduction also changed the naming scheme of all Whelen sirens from WS to WPS. This controller introduced many features including new functions, and the ability to act as a weather station, along with changing the DTMF format. The new DTMF format maintained the first 7 digits. However, to support the almost now 100 functions, it changed the singular DTMF control digit to 3 DTMF control digits. The St. Lucie nuclear power plant wanted to make sure they would have compatibility in the future with any Whelen upgrades, so between 1987 and 1988, they upgraded every single siren with an ESC864. Here is how they were configured for the St. Lucie nuclear power plant. air horn is one of the loudest tones I heard from this thing in person at SirenCon 2024. In 1987, Whelen changed the optical sensors to microswitches to improve reliability. In 1988, Whelen did many things, but here's the most important ones. Whelen introduced a new siren series called the WPS 4000, featuring two models, the WPS 4004 and the WPS 4008, the last digit indicating the amount of drivers. And Whelen changed the WPS 3000 design to feature a third-generation rotator and added a third crossbar to the screen holder. In 1991, the WPS 3000 model was cut in favor of the Whelen WPS 4000 series. Between 2004 and 2018, the St. Lucie Nuclear Power Plant would upgrade every single WS/WPS 3000 to a WPS 4004. Only 2 WPS 3000s remain up. Both are inactive and unused, but cannot be removed as they have power lines and or are unreachable by equipment. Here's some facts about my WS3000. 8 of the 15 drivers I got with it function, despite some of them being from 1981 and being left outside without a cover for 10 years. Mine is missing the driver cover. My rotator has the model number 702060-WR06826878. My Siren is 310 pounds. 128 of them are just the speaker drivers. The Siren is roughly 7 feet tall. I only run the Siren at 1/160th, the Siren power level, and 1/200th of the voice power level. That's about it, guys. Keep suggesting songs. I read every single suggestion YouTube tells me about. See ya.